Well, let's go on a tour of the shop and I'll show you how I make the things. Here's your glasses. This is the actual workshop here where we make the harps. This is our supply of wood over here, and this is where I mark out the parts to be cut out and made into all the different parts that we use in our harps. We make about 12 different models of harps in 3 different woods, and so I have all the parts stacked up here. Whatever the customer chooses for a wood and a design, we have the parts ready to be picked out and used to make that particular customer's dream harp. We make some of the parts that we make are the pin block piece here, which has where the strings fasten on. So we mark these out for drilling the holes and then round over the edges and then glue on the extra build up here pieces that we have here for that to make the harp fit onto the top of the actual hollow body of the harp. We mark out over here. Over here we take the boards and pick out the best uses for each board. I have plastic patterns for all the harps that I need, all the harp parts, so I'll put it in here and decide where each harp is going to be and mark it out like that. So here I'll take this board and I'll bandsaw these parts into the actual shapes that we need to use, and then glue them together. I'll take 2 pieces of this thickness of wood, put it together, and that will actually create the finished pin block. This will be a pin block for a Bronwyn harp, and this would be the holes where the tuning pins fasten, and here's the holes where the bridge pins fasten. This happens to be a walnut one. In all harp design, the weakest area in any harp is always this cross grain here. If we see a failure in an antique harp, their failure is either here or it's in where the pillar fits onto the body. Those are the 2 weakest areas that have been characteristic for harp failure for the last couple hundred years. In order to prevent failures from happening, there's 2 things we do. We work on this area, and then I'll also show you later on what we do to prevent a blowout in the bottom of the harp. But right now I'll show you what we're going to do here. I'm going to embed a piece of maple die board right inside this part of the harp. This will cover any weakness in this area so it cannot ever possibly crack along the grain lines here. If you've studied wood in any sense, it's much easier to break a piece of wood if you break it along the grain rather than across the grain. So let me show you how I actually make these. When I put the harps together, I've got the pin block made, I've got the actual hollow body of the harp made, and this is the front pillar. So this will be going together like this. So I'll take and mark where I want this to end up, and then I will take this like that. And then I'll take and that will fit like that. There. That's the perfect fit right there. After I've got this fitted, The next step is to put in the holes here for the dowels. On this particular model, there will be 4 half-inch wood dowels that will be inserted in here to make this joint so that this joint will be strong enough. On the bigger harps, I actually make a large mortise here, and I put in a loose maple die-board tenon on that particular site here. So this gives enough strength. The issue with any of the single-strung harps is that all the tension on a harp is on one side, so it wants to tip it over like that. We don't have that issue on this particular harp because it's a double strung with 2 harps on 2 strings on each side. But that's always the characteristic problem with the harp, is having all the load on one side. What we're doing here, this harp body has been put together. Next stage will be to fit. See how these are not quite perfect fit yet? This joint here will be have 4 dowels in here, and this will have 4 dowels. And this joint here will be fitted so that this fits on here perfect. Then I'll put a steel bolt that'll come through here, and I'll pull this down solidly. And then we'll put 1 screw up from the inside. So this harp here will eventually, this will be flush, and then when we get it all assembled, then we'll grind this whole thing smooth so that we have our clean design element here of the harps. So you can see how much wood will have to be removed at this stage to make that harp into the way we want it to be. This is a body from a Lorraine style harp, and I'm almost done fitting these corners. Now each of these corners has to have a compound angle fitted on here. This is almost ready to fit right now. So let's finish this up. I've got this little line here where I want to take it to. When I get ready to actually assemble this harp, I'll fill this all full of glue, or glue all these edges, and then we'll put all these parts together. And all these parts have to be put together very quickly so it's all put together at once, because this whole thing will be glued up in one operation. See how all these parts are designed to fit together? This design allows us to have a really, really lightweight box that's actually strong enough to hold up to the load that we're going to be putting on it when we assemble this harp. All of these parts fit together into the slots that they're all housed into the slots. Now there's little slots in these corner sticks too. If that's done quickly enough and perfectly enough, I'll get perfect joints here where these parts are fit tight enough that you can't get a piece of paper into the glue joints. There, and then this one around the waist will pull this harp up tight. And then this will be a harp. When we look at harp design, there's 2 areas of weakness that we talked about. One was on the pin block, the cross grain wood here. The other area is at the bottom of the harp body itself. Now the soundboard is being pulled up here, and the pillar is pushing down. So the pillar and soundboard are trying to separate this glue joint. So this is the area of the highest stress. When you have a harp and you're putting 1,000 pounds of tension on the strings like this, like that. Now the tighter the strings get, the tighter this joint is. The tighter the strings get, the tighter this joint is. So you can't really have a failure at either of those joints because the string tension is doing it. But what's happening down here is the string tension is pulling up, the pillar is pushing down, and this area in here on any harp, if we see a failure in a harp, it's either this area or the pin block is cracked. So in order to prevent any problem in that area, we put heavy glue blocks on the inside. And then I take mark that out. Now I have this glue block, 2 large glue blocks on the inside with this 2 screws on the small harps and 4 screws on the larger harps that'll fasten into that glue block. Then we will take a pin nailer and we'll put 2 nails on each side here so that this joint here is multiple reinforced to prevent any possible blowout in this bottom of the harp. It's a very important feature to make the harps survivable for many, many years of service. This is the finishing room here where we apply our finish on there. We use 2 coats of shellac. Shellac is a really good filler, particularly on the walnut, which is an open grain wood. So we put 2 double coats of shellac on and seal sand between coats, and then we put 2 coats of a lacquer on top of that and scuff lightly between coats. That provides a really good, durable, long-lasting finish.